Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Classic Creepypastas. And today I have two stories for you. It's going to be another double feature, kind of like the Antron video. I'll be reading Funnymouth, and then the second story for today will be a story called Binary DNA. That one sounded pretty cool. I do remember Funnymouth when I was a kid. That was pretty scary. A lot of people on YouTube had read that story, but I feel like it sort of fell off. It doesn't get talked about as much as like the big ones like Jeff the Killer and Slender Man and all that, but it should be pretty scary. Then the second one, I don't know much about at all, but it just seemed cool and I thought it'd be fun to read. So we're just gonna jump right in. But again, thank you so much for everybody who's been watching. I'm very grateful for everybody who's been watching and everyone who's subscribed. And trust me, there will be plenty more videos coming out of this channel because I'm having a great time with this. I was considering maybe doing a little bit of like gaming urban legends or maybe some like scary gaming content. So if that's something that you're interested in, please let me know. But without further ado, we're just going to jump right into Funny Mouth here. The first thing I should probably note is that I'm Lemon Lime Skull. In other words, that's my screen name up there. That was the first time I saw or heard from Funny Mouth, and for all intents and purposes, it should have been the last. Anyone who's spent enough time chatting away knows that weirdos come and go. Folks pop in and ask insane questions, or just to troll a populated channel. What first struck me as odd about the Funnymouth guy, however, was the fact that he came and went with no particular goal. He didn't try to piss anyone off, and he didn't ask if anyone on the channel knew how to fix his computer or remove a virus. He just stuck his head in, rattled off some random text, and happily fucked off. Lemon Lime Skull. So really though, what the hell? Ghost George. Not a clue. He's in another channel if you want to find out. Hashtag blood. I do not, sir. XD, bitch. I don't know what results I expected from following this guy to another channel. I'm not the type that goes out of his way to annoy or argue with people. I usually avoid it at all costs, though. Once someone starts with me, I don't mind getting into it at that point. I guess what I'm saying is I have no idea why I pursued this. Lemon Lime Skull has entered hashtag blood. Hey, I was sitting there in the channel by himself. He was sitting there in the channel by himself. So, you're staring at me. That's rude. Sorry, I just do it. It's okay. I see. I actually chuckled out loud at this point. He was weird and inoffensive. You can come back to reverse sales if you want. We're not gonna boot you if that's what you're worried about. Or not. Whatever, man, you just seemed interesting and I'm bored tonight. I am bored tonight too. I always don't. You always don't what? I always don't, that's it. I always don't because they don't, and then I get silly. Okay, well, see ya. And with that, I left. The act got old fast, and I felt either this was someone trying too hard or a legitimate moron that was unaware of how to properly use a chat program. Sitting idly by yourself and popping into other channels for a split second seemed like a desperate bid for attention. I might have done that and laughed my ass off in or around the 90s, but yeah, stupid. Nothing. I seriously don't know what he was saying. Welcome to the internet. What's sad is that, besides you and me, that guy's the only active user here all night. Lemon Lime Skull kicks Killjoy and shouts wake up. Blah. Silence dominated the channel for about a half hour as I minimized the window and went about my business. Anyone on? Nothing. 8 users in the channel and not a single active one. Boring. Why are people so boring? Wake up. Lemon Lime Skull puts everyone's hands in a bowl of warm water. It took me a few seconds to see it. Funny Mouth again, staring again. I physically slumped my shoulders with a not this shit again sigh. Then I noticed he wasn't in the channel. Anyone else see him? Of course not, because you're idle. Obviously it was a glitch either with my client or the server. The message was kicked up from earlier in the night at random. These things happen. Still, it creeped the hell out of me. After a few minutes of sitting there with a really cold, creepy feeling in my stomach, that I shouldn't have done something feeling, I decided to stop trying to brave it out and close out the entire chat program. Sure, I could have just hung out like everything was fine, but why bother to try to prove that I wasn't spooked? Hell, nobody was even around to see me slink away. After a few more hours screwing around on the web, I went to bed around 2:40 a.m. One thing I always prided myself on is that I do not have nightmares, at least not regularly. Usually, if there's monsters or ghosts or nuclear wars in my dream, I get to control it and have a great time. I'm shooting zombies in the face, outright telling ghosts that they're not real while I laugh at them. And if there's some disaster, I always know how to get to the safe spot while every other motherfucker fries. Awesome. So I'll pause here. So far, so good. I mean, the dialogue, it's very like 2010s, late 2000s, but I mean, that's what we're here for. I have no problem with that. And I mean, so far, so good. I'm not having any issues with the story so far, so I'm just gonna continue on. I've had maybe 4 actual nightmares in the past 10 years, and yes, I'm completely serious. The first nightmare of my adult life was in 2005. I had just broken off a relationship with someone who had been with someone else for over a year behind my back. That night, when I finally did get to sleep, I dreamt she was strapped down to a medical table, while some sort of unseen, inexplicable creature sucked her brain out through a machine. The brain screamed ceaselessly. So, bro, I think you got some problems. You should be having horrible, violent dreams about your ex when you guys break up. It's not good. The second nightmare had me visiting a medical facility where they were experimenting with new methods of saving lives. There was a fantastic tour of this high-tech facility, lots of wonders of modern science, people in lab coats, etc. Then I was led to a room where 3 car crash victims had been saved by their techniques. This included a slowly rocking young girl whose face had been completely distended and hung around her chest, and a woman who was nothing but a cluster of twitching, severed limbs, all held together by a drawn-out, kite-like span of flesh. The third came soon after the second. I was being accosted by 2 people, one who wanted to insult me to no end, and the other who kept trying to pinch and tweak me in absurdly ineffective ways. Thinking I could control the stream like the others, I set the 2 men against each other, thinking they'd be some kind of poetic justice. Instead, the pincher became increasingly violent until he was pulling at the other's cheeks, grabbing his tongue with a fist and furiously pulling at it until it came out. Then he pulled the other fellow's eyelids until they distended in some sort of grotesque prolapse. I suppose what I'm getting at is that even when I did have nightmares, I was never the actual target of any sort of horror. It's always this kind of empathetic horror related to someone else getting brutalized. This night, however, was different. As soon as I fell asleep, I started dreaming. Basically, it was a reoccurring dream I have where I'm in the woods, just checking out animals, birds, and generally acting chill. I lie in the grass and look up at the sky. It's always a dream I welcome because even if I've had a shit day, I wake up happy and ready to start over. This time, the script changed. I laid in the grass, and while staring at the sky, I felt something odd. It was a cold, squirming feeling on my neck. In my dream, I reached out to my neck and pulled a long, writhing earthworm. Earthworms disgust me. If I see one in the yard, I specifically get a shovel and heap dirt over it. Simply so I don't accidentally see it again. Okay, that's kind of wild. That kind of reminds me of that line from Happy Appy, where the author says that like after watching Happy Appy, he has to get rid of all the apples in his house, or he has to eat them as fast as possible so that he doesn't have to be traumatized by any apples. Disgusted but more or less content, I flung the worm aside and continued my dream. Then that feeling again, clammy, wet, wriggling against the side of my neck. I pulled another worm away. Again, it happened. The third time, the feeling of confusion and dread became so overwhelming I immediately snapped myself out of the dream. That's what usually happens when shit gets real in my dreams. Game over. I figured it out though. At least I thought I had. In the waking world, I felt my neck and discovered a slick, slimy film on my skin. Logic dictated that I must have been drooling in my sleep. Nothing to be proud of, but not exactly terrifying either. My dreaming mind must have translated the icky feeling into an appropriate creature in the forest. Perhaps more unsettling, though, was the fact that the bed around me seemed to have indentations. 4 to be exact. It was almost as if someone on hands and knees had been hovering over me as I slept. There were any number of reasons that could have happened, but from then on that night, I slept very lightly. Any little thing, like the sound of a ceiling fan, would wake me up straight away. I had no real interest in going back to the woods that night. So, I'll pause. There's any number of reasons that could have happened. No, man. No, like if you're laid up in bed and you wake up and there's clear indentations of like another human being, it's like, been in your bed that is not like these things happen. These things do not happen, man. Like I would go check the locks on your windows. When morning came around, I got ready to take off, to get out of the house and shake the cobwebs out. I only planned to check my email real quick to make sure I didn't have any pending transactions or questions I had to answer. Surprise! From Funnymouth at blood.com, Saturday, November 17th, 2012 at 2:42 a.m. To Charles Watts. I had a good time to talk to you. It can be fun again. You'll see what. I don't like stop it. As you probably recall, I hadn't given this asshat my email address. However, logical answer, someone else on the channel must have. He obviously came back to refer sales to ask who I was, and that douchebag completely betrayed me, knowing I don't give out my personal contact info. Although, the email was dated at 2:40. That was pretty much the moment I went to bed, when everyone on the channel was still idle. Even though I well and truly knew I was taking some sort of bait, I responded. Yeah, bro. Not exactly sure I want you emailing me. It was clear and to the point. There was no mistaking the message I was sending, and though it was snippy, I wasn't goading him into replying by starting a flame war. But of course, come on, don't be so sad about it. I know you can like it. We will have a lot of fun of the time. It's okay even. And with that, I blocked his address. I really should have done that in the first place, but I had some sort of sick interest in exactly where this was going. Perhaps if I put my foot down, he would admit that he was just screwing around and call me a humorless wet blanket. When I saw it was just the same old bullshit, it gave me the green light to go ahead and shut the guy out. For what it's worth, you can relax at this point. The blocking stuck. There was no follow-up message circumventing the ban. After a few minutes, I assured myself it was all over and went about my day. It wasn't until I got home at dusk that the cold, squirmy feeling in my stomach started all over again, and I had no idea why. Well, that's not entirely true. I had some idea. I checked my email. Nothing from Funnymouth. However, there was an email from George. Hey, refersales.com is fucked up. I can't get shit to load. When you're online, please take a look ASAP. Peace and carrots, George. I loaded the site and waited for some sort of error screen. I let out a string of curses. Downtime meant lost sales, and I had been out all day with no way for George to contact me. If I'd been a little less strict with my info, he could have just called me. Instead, it began to reroute to another page. Blood.com. Yeah, I see it. It's redirecting to a website with a giant pixelated face with a messed up tongue. I think that has to be that Funnymouth piece of shit. Did you give him my email with the domain in it? It's a 404 page, not a redirect. I want to know what you're smoking. All I get is blood.com as a coming soon notice. It didn't give anyone shit. Har har har. Funny. Then he emailed me a screenshot of the site giving a 404 error along with a coming soon notice. He could have easily faked them, but why? I mean, if this was some sort of joke, it was pretty abstract and I didn't get it. When I looked at my website files, everything was normal. Nothing was out of place and nobody had even logged in to change anything. I checked the domain's name servers, the thing that routes the domain where it's supposed to go, and nothing was out of sorts. Still, there was this bloated, tongue-wagging face looking back to me with its empty eye sockets. Then I don't know how I missed it in the first place. Looking closely, the picture of the face wasn't really pixelated. It was made up of tiny letters, HTML code coloring each letter of the image. Over and over again, the word that made up the image was right in front of me. Funnymouth, 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 and a great cluster of nonsense. I felt like spitting at the screen. I unblocked his email address and set to writing an incredibly profane and threatening letter. I didn't really care if it got the site back at this point. I just wanted to get everything off my chest so I could feel like I was in control of the situation again. Before I could finish the letter, I got this weird, creepy feeling again. That, no, it couldn't be feeling where you know you're being absurd, but at the same time, you know you're right. I stopped hacking out of my death threats and checked the inbox. I see your handsome face. Hello, buddy. Come on. Hello. 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 I don't want to not. I don't think about it, please, though. I see your handsome face. Not only was that feeling correct, the feeling that he had already emailed me the minute I unblocked him, but it seemed he had been steadily emailing me nonstop since I had blocked him. 10 more letters arrived within the time span it took me to reply. Fucking stop. I was getting a stress headache. My heart was pounding, not from fear but rage. This is probably the most absurdly infuriating person on the internet, and that's saying a lot. Thankfully, the string of letters did indeed stop. I tried to calm myself down, breathing deeply, but it didn't seem to take. I was still incredibly pissed. Slowly, methodically, I sent him another note. I don't understand what you're saying, and I do not understand what you want. I think there may be a language barrier. Is your first language English? I think you may have done something to my website, and I would like you to undo it. If you're mad at me, I did not intend for this to happen. You may have misunderstood what I said or what I meant. Please change my website back, and let's both go our separate ways. Thank you, CW. I waited. I thought about how I'd conquer my anger, and this measured response was really the best way to go about it. This fellow would understand what I meant. He'd realize the mistakes he made. I calmed down. Everything's gonna be okay. And then I hit the roof. I hit the goddamn roof and went clear through it. I smacked the monitor with my palm, knocking off my desk. That pissed me off even more as I drove my fist in the keyboard repeatedly until the keys flew. I screamed out in a mixture of frustration with myself and rage over the situation and stormed out of the room, knocking down anything and everything I could get my hands on. For as long as I could manage the energy, I laid waste to my own shit. I would have started a fire and burned the fucking place down if I had a lighter on hand. That night, I stared at the ceiling for what felt like an eternity before sleep came. So, this dude definitely has anger issues if you're tweaking that hard. Like, this guy is doing, like, mid-level trolling easily. Okay, this is like 4 out of 10 on the trolling scale, and he's got you, like, punching your monitor, blasting your keyboard, knocking everything over in your house. Like, this guy is, like, getting a 10 out of 10 reaction out of some 4 out of 10 bait for sure. But continuing on, waiting for sleep, I knew I was going to have a nightmare. I just knew it. This is how my luck was going. Imagine how surprised I was even in sleep when instead of some horrific setting, I was someplace safe. The woods. I laid in the grass again. I felt the relaxation. I knew, even my subconscious knew, that everything would be okay. No matter what setbacks life threw at me, the world would go on. Nothing was permanent. Everything was in transition. Nobody could really get to me. I felt the squirming against my neck. Nope, no dice. Nothing could spoil this right now. I ignored the worm. It would go away. I felt the squirming move to my mouth. Now I couldn't will myself awake. Every other time I'd been able to decide to wake up, it seemed that opportunity had now passed. Then it wasn't a worm. It was a finger. Then another. Then more, until 4 slimy, squirming digits were locked around my teeth, clutching my lower jaw. It didn't hurt when it happened. It was just sort of a pop. More pressure than pain. It was quick, and before I even knew what was going on, it was over. Then I managed to force myself awake. I sat up and got to my feet in complete darkness. Feeling my way around the walls, I made my way into the bathroom, and there I finally flicked on a light switch. I stood before the mirror, rubbing my eyes as the harsh light blinded me. I stared into the mirror for minutes on end with no reaction, no feelings, no thoughts. Then I smiled. I smiled as best I could now that my jaw was completely broken, hanging loose around my neck. My tongue lolled out listlessly like a paralyzed gooey slug. My teeth weren't rooted in anything but threads of flesh, and I could pull them out by hand with the same discomfort as a needle prick. I laughed, the halting sound coming out like a gurgle of a backed up sewer drain. What a handsome face. What a funny mouth. 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 Lemon Lime Skull has joined refer sales. I see your handsome face. Don't be so sad about it. Hey, where the fuck were you? Hello? Charles? Lemon Lime Skull has left refer sales. And that was Funny Mouth. Pretty good, pretty solid. I still think this one's pretty great. It doesn't explain a whole lot, which I think is to its benefit. I prefer that it's not really telling us what it is, if it's really a monster, if this guy's just losing his mind. It keeps everything pretty vague, and I think that's really probably the best part of it. The image is also pretty scary. It's got a very scary image associated with it. All around, it's not too long either. All around, I think this is pretty great. I might even give it I might give it a 9. I'm going to put on the same tier as Antron, because this is like a short, sweet creepypasta. It's punchy, it's good, it's got a scary image. I can't really say anything bad about it. Maybe there could have been more scares. Like, maybe there could have been more scary things that the thing does, or we could have gotten more of a description of, like, what it is. But I think this is pretty great, and it keeps things, like, very, very down low, very creepy, doesn't explain too much. So, all around, pretty good, 9 out of 10. Definitely a solid creepypasta. But we're going to jump into the second one now, which is called Binary DNA. And this one I have no idea about, so it could be good, it could be bad. It doesn't seem too long. So without further ado, we're just going to jump right into binary DNA. It is said when you take a picture of someone, you capture their soul in the camera. It's also said that if you print it off, that picture contains the soul itself and you can control them with it. Okay, so right off the bat, who says this? Who told you this? I've never heard this once in my entire life. I'm not sure where to start. Do you know what the primordial soup is? A veritable ocean of elements all floating around randomly. And through millions of years of time, eventually the right set of circumstances came to pass, and the elements were able to connect together and form the world's single first cell organism. Now that's a really boiled down version of it, but I'm sure you get the gist. Fast forward a few billion years to the early 1990s when internet use began to rapidly accelerate. Every home had a computer, and new connections between computers and were opening on a by the second basis. Trillions of bytes of data began to transfer around the world at the speed of light. Music, text, sound, and most importantly, pictures. Now, if you take a picture of someone and capture their soul, what happens when that picture is converted to data and placed on a hard drive? Does the soul follow? 15 years later, we believe so. We believe that when you take a picture of someone and upload it to your computer alongside the image data, a blueprint of the person's soul is imprinted on the file. Look at your pictures folder. How many souls reside in there alone? That's just the beginning though. These soul blueprints each retain pieces of a puzzle, parts of the soul itself as well. Recently, a group of hackers who referred to themselves as the Cardinals took an interest in this theory and began experiments. They found anomalies within the binary sequences of images based on similar features of the person they had taken a picture of. A binary DNA, if you will. Name drop moment. These hackers had come to possess a set of 3 extremely important data files. One AVI, one JPEG, and one MP3. Each of possessing interesting and unexplainable qualities. It's very funny to me. It's like the 3 most 2012 file formats of all time. AVI, JPEG. The only way that could be any funnier is if there was a .exe in there. The first, Cradle.avi, depicts what appears to be a group of teenagers with low-resolution camera exploring the basement of a house. The quality of the video is distorted beyond any comprehensibility, and the video is very grainy. For most of it, the cameras passed around the group, handed back and forth, and jerked around too much to make out anything noticeable. But near the end, the camera turns at an odd angle, and you can semi-clearly make out a young girl standing in the corner, facing the wall. Her hair is long and black, and she wears some sort of white dress. You only see her for a split second, but many people who have watched the video claim to see there's something wrong with her. Like she's a bit deformed, but not in a way anyone can explain. The truly peculiar property of this video is what happens to the user's computer at the end of it. On the last second of the video, if not already so, it will force itself to full screen. Along with this, you're left with 1 second looping clip of the window and a wall. It loops 15 times, and then the girl is seen again standing on the other side of the window with her back to the viewer, slowly wavering back and forth. After a few moments, the video ends and the user's computer permanently shuts down. Inspection has shown that the entire registry becomes completely corrupt, requiring the user to do a total wipe and reinstall. The second file, known as needles.mp3, the sound file, when played, goes on for about 3 minutes. It's extremely distorted. One can occasionally make out some form of talking, but most of the sound is from some form of growling, rolling, crackling roar. Users who listen to the file often experience extreme nausea and loss of balance for a brief period of time. The final file is known as burningman.jpg. The file name has nothing to do with the actual image it depicts. Instead, it displays a haphazard mess of overlaid, meshed images of dolls in a hallway. There also seems to be an image of a man standing with his head cast down in the background, but the picture is too distorted to make anything out, much like the other files. The image, when downloaded and opened on the user's desktop, will proceed to stay permanently on screen on whatever program it is opened through. Not only that, but the program becomes disabled. Nothing else happens. The image just permanently sits on your desktop, unclickable, unminimizable. You're just left there with the man's invisible gaze staring at you. From what the group of hackers were able to discern, the file seems to have precompiled into the data something along the lines of CMDAO. Yet, as complex and intricate as the program is, it works across all OS platforms. No one knows who the original creator is. In fact, few people have heard of it, as the file is uncopyable nor sendable. This further adds to the mystery, as often recipients of this file will obtain it from random anonymous emails, posted on forums as a download link, posing the question, how was the poster able to upload it? If you ever see these files, refrain from downloading any of them. They all have varying detrimental effects on your computer, from taking out your whole registry, corrupting System 32, freezing your mouse, or crashing your computer. Now onwards. This group of hackers, the Cardinals, took to analyzing these 3 files and comparing their odd behaviors. They had heard of such strange files, images, data, etc., but were never able to get their hands on them. At least as far as we know, the rumor states that they were able to locate and collect all the known files, like the original smile.jpg, barbie.jpg, even suicidemouse.avi. Not even the grifter was able to escape their grasp, rumor states. But the rumor also states that the grifter video even exists, and that's another story. So, pretty funny that we're getting crossovers. So far so good on this story. I mean, I feel like it's definitely making some assumptions, like right out the gate. I mean, most stories do that. You know, just right out the gate, just saying like, yeah, taking a picture someone captures their soul and makes a copy of it, and no, we're not gonna give like any kind of justification for that. That's just what happens. You know, that's pretty fun. I'm not gonna hate on it, but it definitely is just like making a jump. And then where you're losing me a little bit is when you're bringing up smile.jpg, barbie.jpg, suicidemouse.avi. Like, now we're getting funny. This is some like tats.videos. Like, we're bringing all of the classics together for this. But I won't hold up. I'll keep going here. Nonetheless, with all these files in hand, the group lined them up and began to meticulously work through the binary 10/1 at a time, checking for similar strains and series of binary that matched. And they did manage to successfully do so, the legend states. The legend? This is a legend now? It's a legend? Okay. The result was 7 individual execute files that did nothing, simply a gibberish piles of ones and zeros. They endlessly puzzled over these files, each tackling an execute each. They decided to name them after themselves. Lust, gluttony, greed, envy, sloth, wrath, and pride. Oh my god. Okay. we're okay. Alright. At last, they attempted to line the files up. Remarkably, something odd happened. Their copies quite suddenly meshed together. The result was a single complete execute already named, barelybreathing.exe. And what of this file? Well, not much is known after this point. They were too smart to just execute it. They analyzed the file every possible way. Hex, binary, conversions, anything to figure out what it would do. It was to no avail. Even after being formed together, it was an even bigger jumble of ones and zeros that made no more sense than the separate executes. They backed the file up to a flash drive and proceeded to run it. That was the last command found on their destroyed computer a week later. Their corpses had been disfigured beyond recognition. Description of them stated that it was almost seemed as if they were brutally slashed across their faces and arms. Every square inch of skin that was bare that must have been mutilated, almost microwaved, and then sliced repeatedly in a thin, micro-thin razor. The government attempted to hush up the event, but there was some media leakage, and because the Cardinals had been keeping a blog amongst themselves and includes a few close friends, it's closed down and deleted now, so don't go trying to find it. It spread quickly, as per what they were attempting to accomplish, whether or not it was related to their terrible deaths. And what of this flash drive? A friend who knew of its existence later checked the home of the group and was unable to find it. According to the reports, the drive was found in the pocket of one of the group. It had been taken into custody by the police and then simply vanished. The trail continues on far more though. The file resurfaces every few weeks around the globe. Governments attempt to cover it up, but some media leaks out, of course. Look to the news for multiple people mutilated in their homes by a murderer, their computers stolen, etc. And if you ever get a cryptic email with an attachment labeled barelybreathing.exe, for fuck's sake, do not open it. So this one, definitely not as good as Funnymouth. Where it starts to lose me is bringing up all the other creepypastas, you know, and that's not to say I love those creepypastas, okay? I'm not a hater at all. I love Smile Dog, I love Suicide Mouse, but like, you know, you're taking me out of the story a little bit when you're like bringing up, like, you might as well be like, yeah, and then Jeff the Killer got the image file. Like, it's very, you're taking me out of the story a little bit when you're bringing up these classic creepypastas. But I guess at the time, this was written in 2010, August 8th, 2010. So, I mean, at the time, that probably wasn't, like, very cliche. These were all very new stories. So this one's has a lot of good ideas, and it's short and sweet. I'll give it a 7 because this one's pretty good. But it did take me out with that, and then the hackers' names being like lust and envy and wrath. That is very like, oh come on, dude. You know, like come on, dude. Not horrible. I think Funnymouth was much better so far. I think the best ones we've read are Funnymouth and Antron are probably the best ones, and the worst one we've read so far is probably. I mean, I probably just have to say Rap Rat. I mean, and when I say worse, I don't mean like worse as in like the writing isn't very good, but they're very entertaining. I would rather have a bad story than a boring story. So all in all, these are pretty good stories. I think we had a back-to-back episode today where the stories were both not bad at all, and it'll make for a pretty creepy episode, which is good. I feel like a lot of the episodes lately have had silly stories in them, so it's nice to have back-to-back scary stories. And maybe next week we'll do some more silly stuff, unless I get some recommendations. Which, of course, if you have any recommendations at all, if you think I should read something, or you have any kind of ideas for me, or suggestions, or anything at all, feel free to let me know in the comments. Totally open to suggestions. I just read Sonic 3 Hacked Cartridge. That was a viewer request, and I did get one for Attract Mode, and another one, I forget the name of it, but yeah, I'll go ahead and take a look into those as well. And yeah, if you have any recommendations, feel free to let me know. But of course, thank you so much for watching. Again, I really appreciate everybody who's been watching. And that's going to be all from me. Next video should be out probably next week. So look forward to that. And thank you so much. Please have a great day.